Alright, step number 76. We're getting real close here. We're going to take the metal hexes and insert one of the tiny little grub screws. Now, you don't have to put thread lock on these. I like to put just a little bit because I have seen them back out before. And the little grub screw, just for now, put it in there just a couple of turns just to hold it. Okay, grab your rig, and if you've been hoofing this thing around, chances are your front bearing may have come out. So double check, make sure that your front bearing is in there. Let's rotate this around, and you can see there's a little hole in the front axle hill here. I'm going to spin that around so that it's this way. We're going to take one of the pins and we're going to drop it. Yes, that's mandatory. I'm going to take one of the little pins and we're going to put it through the hole. Then we're going to take our hex, and that pin fits into the little slots on the hex here. So make sure those are in the right direction. Go ahead and line it up and push it on. Hold it in tight as you can. Tighten down the hex screw. You don't want to strip them out, but you do want it tight. Okay, pretty straightforward. Now let's find one of the front tires, and you can tell the front tire because it's got the shorter spacer in there as compared to the rear tire. Now this hex is going to fit over this. So we'll insert the axle through and go ahead and spin that around until it slides in. You're going to see your axle hanging out here. Excuse me. And we're going to insert one of the flanged nuts on there. You're going to want to make sure, again, as you're tightening that down, that your wheel is into the hex. Because sometimes they can not be quite centered on there properly. Double check from the back. You can see in there everything is all nice and set in, and that's how you put your wheels on. Go ahead and do that with the other three, and again you're going to want to make note that you're using the tires that have the short spacers on the front and the long spacers on the rear. Alright, well, technically we're done now. There are a few other things that I want to go over, and we'll get to those in a second. However, this is what your rig should look like. Very, very attractive rig. I wish now that for this part I had put the heads on and painted the interior, but I didn't. You also have the option again of putting the spare tire rack on the back, which we did not do. Lots of hop-ups available for it, lots of factory stuff available, lots of aftermarket stuff available. Have fun. We love to upgrade these, different tires, different wheels, all sorts of stuff. However, it is fully capable as it sits now. Three things we're going to go over. And I'm going to get set up for those. The first one is the battery. We're going to put the battery in, and before I was kind of unsure about why there were some moving parts inside here, we're going to show you how to properly attach your battery. Second thing we're going to do is we have not yet put in our receiver. So we're going to put our receiver in and our antenna, and then we are going to go over basic setup instructions for your radio, such as what the hell was that? Such as how to adjust your endpoints so that you don't burn out your servos. So we'll be right back. Alright, let's start with the battery. Choose your battery, 2-cell, 3-cell. If you're using LiPo, it's pretty much all we use anymore. This is the one I've chosen. It's just one that I happen to have around. This is a 2-cell that the sticker keeps peeling up on. However, you're going to remove the little a little clip here with the fob on it, and this opens up the battery tray for you to slide your battery into. Okay, this unit right here is adjustable, and there's 4 screws on here that will allow us to all sorts of dinging going on, will allow us to capture that battery a little bit tighter than what it is right now. We're going to go ahead and remove the screw and push this down till it's on top of the battery, and then go ahead and put the screw back in. And that will put some pressure on that battery. So that it stays in place. You still want it to be able to slide in and out. And then we're going to do the same on the back one here. You can see that this little cross is lifted up off the battery here. And we're just going to take the screw out and push that down till it's flush with the battery, and it's going to keep it from flopping around. There we go. And then we're going to repeat the process on the other side for these two. Once that's done, you're going to want to make sure that your battery, you kind of test fit your battery. Make sure that it actually does slide in and out properly without being too tight. So I'm going to go ahead and do these two, and we're going to call that we're going to go ahead and say that we're done with that one, and we'll move on to the next part of getting this thing ready to go. Okay, to install our radio, I removed the 4 screws from the radio box here, which we put on earlier. When you take it off, just make sure that you have the gasket doesn't come off, and that you set that wherever it needs to go. Okay. I am going to readjust the camera here a little bit. Bear with me. There we go. Okay. Just get a little easier shot of that. Okay. Going to take the wires that we so neatly tucked away and pull them off to the side here a little bit. And I'm going to reach in and take out this little silicone gasket for the antenna wire. Many different kinds and types of radios out there. I'm not about to tell you what to use. I just so happen to be using a Spectrum. So we're going to thread the antenna wire through this little silicone gasket. And I'm just going to set this in here for a minute to make sure that we have the proper amount of antenna lead that we need there, so that we don't pull it too tight. Okay, so that's done. At this point, I'm going to plug in the proper wires to where they belong. And let's see now. Forgot which wire was which. We have the ESC wire, which is the orange side. Okay, so the ESC is going to plug into my throttle. And we have negative in the right position. So we're going to plug that one in. And then we're going to plug in the steering to the steering. Make sure positive and negative is in the right place. Okay, so that's all there is to that. There is 2-sided tape supplied in the kit. I'm going to take a little strip of that and put it on the bottom of our radio. And stick it in there. just like so. Okay, we're going to route the wires around and tuck them out of the way. Make it nice and neat inside the box. And we're going to feed our antenna wire down and through, and then we're going to secure the little silicone gasket into the slot, just like so. And go ahead and put this back together. Let me put this back on, and then we will get the antenna properly hooked up, and we'll be right back. Alright, now to hook up and reroute the antenna. Your antenna wire should be sticking out from underneath in here, and we're going to route it around, and there's a little hole right here. You can see it's kind of an oblong. It's actually two small little holes next to each other. We're going to take the short tube that came with this, the antenna tube, slip it down over the antenna, and there's a little slot in that hole, and that's where the antenna is going to go through, and we're going to put the antenna wire into that slot and then push the antenna tube down into that hole. Actually, I can't see it without getting my head in the way of the camera, so I'm going to do it off camera and I'll be right back. Okay, so the little slit was not big enough for my wire, so I reached in there with a little utility knife and made it big enough, so you can see how the wire goes in through the side. Now, through all of that, I hope I didn't lose my little grub screw. Here we go. Next thing we're going to do is install a little grub screw in the tiny hole that's next to it, and what that's going to do is hold the antenna in because it's a little bit loose. So we're going to put that in there, make sure the antenna is pushed all the way down, and insert the set screw. And that secures the antenna. Okay, now we're going to take the little plastic cap, put it over the top of the antenna, and that job is done. Okay. Next, we will adjust the endpoints on the steering in the front. Now we're going to adjust the endpoints for the front steering. What that means is the steering is going to steer all the way to one side and all the way to the other. And what we don't want it to do is to oversteer. What I'm looking at here is that when I steer all the way to this side, you can see that I'm activating the servo saver without the front wheel moving. And what we want to do is, using our radio, is we want to back that off just until the wheel quits turning, so that's at our maximum throw. Otherwise we're going to be burning out our servo. The other thing you want to watch out for is the servo arm touching the servo at full throw. So you're going to want to go ahead and adjust your endpoint so that you get maximum steering without binding or overthrow. Many different radios out there, and it's up to you to read through your manuals to find out how to do that. I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that it is something that you do need to look at.